welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to try something a bit ostentatious, or something that you could say no one really has ever done before, at least not that I've ever seen documented. And we're going to try to convert a 19-inch K7000 to a 25-inch K7000. Can it be done? On paper, because there's only 5 components, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that are different between 19-inch and 25-inch. All of your power components are the same across the board. 1925 revision, doesn't matter. R103, the rectifier diodes, R104, R89, R101, R88, R97. All of that is the same. The 19-inch doesn't use R96, but 25-inch does. That's one of the 5 components, but it's still 1.8 k ohms. The only difference really between the 19s and 25s, even the flyback. The flyback is the same flyback for a 13-inch, 19-inch, or 25. They're all the same. So the only difference that you need to worry about when converting a 19 to a 25 or vice versa, there's 5 components. Possibly 6, but we'll get to that 6th one later. You have the B plus resistor. The B plus resistor on the 19-inch is 220 ohms, whereas on the 25-inch it's 180 ohms. So there's the B plus resistor, item 1. The horizontal width coil is a different microhenry rating, and you need to use this or you won't be able to have the correct width adjustment. So there's the horizontal width coil. We have the horizontal width cap. The 19s use a 0.334 from the factory, and 25s use a 0.39. So horizontal width cap. We have the voltage regulator, is an STR 130. 130 being 130 volt, whereas STR 123 being 123 volt. So we have the voltage regulator. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we have, R96. Most of the 19-inch ones do not have R90. I believe the medium res do because they run hotter, but the regular everyday 19-inch 7000 does not have R96 in there, most of them. So you have to put R96 in there. It's a 1.8 k ohm. So there's 5 components that you have to install and or replace, and then that really should be it. Now, R80 is the last and 6th possible component. R80 may need to be changed out because R80 is responsible for your vertical size, and that resides right here. This resistor right here, that guy right there. So if you, no one's ever done this to the best of my knowledge. I've never done this, and I'm going to be interested to see what ends up happening, because if the image is way too tall, then we need to go lower on the rating for the vertical size. I believe that's how it works. It may need to be increased, but basically if it's too tall or too small, meaning we cannot get full size, or it's too tall and we can't shrink it down to fill the screen properly, R80 is the last and 6th component that may need to be replaced. We'll have to wait and see. I stole this from a 25-inch K7000, and it reads, let's see, I'll show you here for illustration purposes. I stole this from a parts 25-inch 7000. And if we look here, it reads 5.6 ohms. If we read R80 on this 19-inch, it also reads 5.6 ohms. So we may not need to replace that at all. That's why I'm saying it depends on the situation. So you have to take that with a grain of salt. But I got it just in case there's something going on with this one. But 25-inch and a 19-inch both read exactly identical, 5.6. So I say possibly 6 components because we may not have to change that out. But these for sure. So the last thing to consider here is the neck board. Now this particular 7000 uses the 7-pin neck board, CR31. And we do not count the focus pins. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. CR31. Now there's no 25-inch tube in existence that I'm aware of that uses the 7-pin CR31. So we have to convert this to a CR25 if you want to use this for a 25-inch tube. So with that being the case, if you do not have a spare, let's see, the 25-inch and the 19-inch neck boards are completely, totally interchangeable. If you want to try this for yourself and you have a spare parts 7000 laying around with the CR23 socket, which this one has 9 pins, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The CR25 socket, you can simply remove the two connectors here. This connector disconnects from the neck board. The other side of this one disconnects from the main board. Disconnect your two flyback pins, the G2 and or two connections, the G2 and the focus. And this should come right off, and you can physically just swap it onto your 19-inch, pure plug and play with no problem. But I don't want to do that, so if you don't have that option either, Peter at Arcade Parts and Repair sells a completely brand new replacement neck board. So I put a CR23, did I say CR25? CR23, I'm sorry, CR23 neck socket, and I'm going to take all the components off of this neck board and swap them onto this one. I'll do it off camera so we don't have an hour and a half long video, but it's just going to come down to removing the components off of this neck board, hooking them onto this one, and then we'll have a compatible neck board that we can use to convert this to a 25-inch. So you have the neck board to contend with, and then you have these 5 components: B+ resistor, width coil, width cap, regulator, and R96. So let's get these changed out and see how this goes. So like I say, this is totally working, tested, operational, no problem. Now of course you have to also consider that the 25-inch uses a 2 amp fuse and the 19 uses a 1.5, so I just took out the 1.5 that was blown with the bad components and put in a 2 amp. So not going to be any problem with that. So let's see what we can figure out here. Let's start with our, I just put the voltage regulator back in, a brand new one, just to get it working and verify. So I'll take it right back out. I do need to, after we're done here, put a zip tie back on these wires, but let's take this one I just put in here right back out. And we'll install our STR 130 for our 130 volt regulation versus 123 on the 19-inch. Is that good? And a little bit more on this one. There we go. All right, get these out of the way. And do now, again, take all this with a grain of salt, because no one's ever done this that I'm aware of, and I've never done it. This is just an experiment to see if it's even possible and what kind of repercussions you're going to end up with if you try this and it doesn't work. So, looking through the schematic, there's not really much else that is different, nothing that's negligible, I should say, that will cause this to not work and or would need immediate attention, besides just these 5 components. So we'll take that out. We don't need that. These are, I'm going to throw these bad components in the trash here that I took out, and I'll add the 123 back to my stash later. Okay, we'll get the 130 in there. You stay there, you. It's not going to, but we'll see if it will. It didn't. But no big deal. It's not that difficult to line it back up. Just make sure you don't tear it trying to line it up with the whatever tool you're using. Okay, that was pretty painless. So yeah, the 19-inch, can you, the point of this video is to convert a 19 to a 25. But let's say you want to convert a 25 to a 19. Can you do that? Yeah, you just pretty much do the opposite of what we're doing here. However, the width coil is different. The microhenries on the 19 width coil are different from the microhenries on the 25-inch coil. And they do not currently make a reproduction 19-inch horizontal width coil with the correct rating. You can always put the regular 25 one in there, but your image may be too wide or too narrow. You'll need to increase or decrease the size of your horizontal width cap. So you can also go from 25 to 19, but you're going to have to adjust your width using the C38 as opposed to this, because they don't make reproductions of the 19. But they do make reproductions of 25, which is part number 9 alpha 2838-002. So you can put the .39 width cap in here and use this to adjust your width like you would normally, as if this was a 25-inch from the factory. So I want to put that out there too. So these are, they don't need to be super tight, just a little snug. That's good. Okay, so that's changed out. Let's get this zip tie back on here. Okay, that's how that's supposed to be. And we'll solder it in, or solder. I work with a guy who spent some time in Great Britain, and the reason he told me the reason they pronounce it solder instead of solder is because solder sounds dirty. Dirty as in, like, you know, a bad word. And he told me what it refers to, but I can't say it on YouTube because I don't want to get some type of... None of my videos aren't monetized. I'm not going to get demonetized. I don't have monetization turned on. I don't get enough views for it to be worth my time, but he's pretty much telling me they don't say solder, they say solder, because solder is a reference to something bad over there. So, I mean, okay, if that's how it is, that's how it is, but, you know, whatever. But a little side bit of information for you. So let's get R96 installed, and that guy resides right here. Why are you... There we go. Let's make sure that it's lined up and can fit through there. No, I'm going to need to open this up a little bit. Okay, just need to make the holes a bit bigger. And that should work beautifully. If there wasn't a bunch of solder on these legs that I have to get off. Nothing's ever easy. Oh, I'm sorry, solder. Somebody, if anyone's viewing out there from Great Britain or England, you can tell me what my coworker was referencing, but maybe he was just talking out his ass. I don't know. It sure sounded like he was speaking from experience, but I don't know. Okay, this might be a little bit difficult, but let's see if we can do it here. Nope. And to add insult to injury, it falls on the floor. And did it go in the 9th dimension? Nope. It went into the 1st dimension because I was able to find it. That one goes right in. This one's the one that's being the pain. Okay. And it's a 1.8 k ohm resistor, just like R88, right over here. So I'm not sure on the wattage. I think it's a half watt, but they don't get that hot. So I mean, you want to use this one here is like a 5 watt. It came out of a 7000A, but it sure is being difficult. We may have it. I can't tell. Yep. Okay. Alright, R96 is in. Let's stand it up. I squished it down a little bit trying to get it in, so we'll stand it up a little bit. Okay, that'll work. Make sure it's not touching R89 or anything else so it doesn't induce heat on everything around it. So that's good. Let's remove C38, our horizontal width cap. And you can see here that the 19 inch uses a 334. It's hard to see there. 334, and this 25 inch needs a 0.39. So it's 0.33 versus 0.39. Not much, but enough to give it a little bit, just a little bit more of width. So we got to get this 0.39 in. And in all likelihood, you could probably just keep the 334 in there, but 0.39 is what the 25s usually need and use. So we're going to put in a 0.39. All right. This one's got some solder on the legs too. Or again, solder, whatever you want to say. I'm going to say solder because we're not in Great Britain. We speak America here. We speak America. Okay. That goes in rather nicely. Should sit right in there. Okay. If I could see. Success. All right. Make sure it doesn't fall out on me. So we'll tack it in here. Hey, message. Message. Okay. All right, what do you want? What do you want? Hang on. Oh. Okay. Now let's do our width coil. Yeah, I'll get this all cleaned up and in the sink and all that stuff, get all this dirt and grime off of it. If we get this project complete and it works and everything else, well, I guess if it doesn't, even if it doesn't work, even if it doesn't work, I'll still clean it up, but yeah, it needs a bath, something fierce. Yeah, HOT is the same HOT. I mean, it's only these 5 components. That's about it. And everything else should be the same except for R80, and that's going to be the only question mark. The fact that there's a 5.6 ohm resistor in R80 on this one, and there's also a 5.6 ohm resistor out of the 25 inch that I stole, makes me think that we might get away with not having to change R80, but it depends on your yoke reading, for your vertical, a lot of different things, but ultimately, yeah, if your image is too tall or too narrow, I guess narrow is for wide, but if you can't make it tall enough and or it's too tall, then R80 will need to be changed out to a different rating. I have a video on that I can link down in the description below, and you can see what I'm talking about. So, okay, only thing left now is our B+ resistor, which resides on the side over here. Little Diet Pepsi to quench the thirst on the back neck. Okay. Oh my lord, this is toasty. That is toasty. So we are going to, oh, holy crap. We're going to cut these wires and we're going to just strip them and do new wires here. So, oh my god, it's so crusty. Wow, I can't believe this even worked. It's just roasted. All the way back here, it's just roasted. We're going to come back to probably about here. This side's not so bad. We'll go roughly there. All right, man, that is that's crusty. All right, that's out. And 1, 2, 3, 4. And there was no R96. So here's our 4 removed components. That's all we have to remove for now. I need to get my wire strippers. Hang on 1 second. I have to go out to the garage, get some wire strippers, and I'll be right back. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna go like so. Beautiful. That wire is great. This one I might have to trim back a little bit more. Oh, nah, it's good. Okay, that shield was still, or coating was still pretty charred, but all right. Still plenty of excess we can use. So we're going to, let's see, it doesn't matter which side of wires we put on here because it's a resistor, there's no polarity. So let's put the blue through here and let's fold it over like so. Let's grab some flux. Flux is your friend. You want to stay that way? Stay there. Okay. Flux is your friend. That's how you get the solder to stick to the wire. And let's see what kind of magic we can work here. You can never use too much. I use this solder paste. Here's the info on it if you want to look it up and get some for yourself. I mean, the liquid's fine, but I like to use the paste. So let's just simply go to town here. And there's the flux doing its job. And yeah, that wire is roasted still. Let's see if we can scrape some of that off of there. What is happening here? Where's all my solder going? Oh, it's falling through the hole onto the mat. Well, I don't want that to do that, so let's try and angle it a bit like so. Hey, now we're getting somewhere. There we go. Not going to win any kind of awards, but there we go. Now I'll give that a few moments here to cool down because that resistor is a big heat sink. So it takes a while for this to kind of cool down. And I think, yep, okay, now we'll check the other side. The other side looks fine. Let's do the red one now. Fold that over, all right. And here we go. Get back over here, you. Man, I'm blowing up tonight. Alright, I'm not too happy with that, but it's gonna work. That's better. Alright, let's give that a moment. My phone's usually in vibrate, but I was expecting a call from somebody earlier and I forgot to turn it back to silent. So, alright, let's clean this up a little bit. Nope, dropped the brush. Then we'll do a little inspecting on this, because you always want to double check your work. And clean up after yourself. There's a lot on there. All right. How does this look? Don't like that. That's a little better. About this side. That side's fine. Alright, so I'll go with that. There's a little tab here on this that keeps this from turning, so it goes in from the top. You'll see them like this. That's incorrect. It goes like this. Then we got to put this back in along with the nut, which is going to be somewhat interesting to try and do this here. Did we get it? By Jove, I think we got it. And you can't even see what I'm freaking doing. Sorry about that. Alright. Well, I think that's it. We have just now successfully, allegedly successfully, converted a 19-inch 7000 into a 25-inch 7000. I forgot to mention, when I was saying all the power components are the same, flyback is the same, all of the caps are the same too. There's no cap. The cap kit for the 13-inch, 19-inch, 25-inch, flyback for those three, power components, everything I mentioned, same across the board. There's nothing that I'm aware of that is different between the 19 and 25 except these 5 components: the width cap, the width coil, the regulator, the B+ resistor, and then you have to add the R96 in there. That's, to my knowledge, that's the only thing you have to do. And of course, again, R80. And your fuse has to go to 2 amp versus 1.5. But I think that's it. So I'm going to, off camera, I'm going to just pull all the components off of this board, minus the neck socket, the CR31 neck socket. And the CR23 is already on here. And I'm going to pull all the components off of here, swap them onto here, and then I come back, I'll show this all ready to go, all connected, and then it's ready to test it. So let me get that done, I'll come right back and we'll see how that goes. Well, there you go. So just like that, we have our old neck board completely depopulated and all the parts successfully transferred over to our new replacement neck board. And again, ideally, if you had a 25-inch spare parts board laying around that had a neck board, you could just grab that one and swap the 2 cables here that have the blue wires that go to the actual main board, and then your focus wire in G2, and then that's all you have to do. But I don't have an extra spare parts CR23 neck board, so I had to go this route, which isn't a big deal. So at least now I have a new neck board here to use. I can always just replace the components on this if I want to change it back to a CR31 or something like that. So with the neck board and the B+ resistor and the voltage regulator and the C38 width cap and the horizontal width coil, that's about it. And of course your fuse. So yeah, there's nothing left really to do to this except put it on a tube and see what we get. So I think that'll be the next step. I'm going to grab the tube and get this installed on it, and then I'll hook up the meter so we can check our B+, and I've got the shutdown pot glue broken off so we can adjust our shutdown pot, make sure everything's good. We should have 130 volts for our B+. And yeah, it should work. You know, I think maybe, let's try it. Let's do something else first. Let's just go ahead and do our light bulb test. Now that I think about it, let's just verify we're getting 130 volts out of our voltage regulator, just to kind of eliminate problems here. So let's desolder the collector pin of the HOT, which I believe is this, well, it's this pin we need to desolder, but I believe it's the collector leg, which is our output to the horizontal circuit. So with that leg desoldered, we should not have continuity from the pin to the pad or the trace. So here's the pad, and I'm going to touch the leg of the actual HOT here. Okay, we still have continuity, so it's, yep, I need to do a little bit more desoldering here real quick. Bend it out a little. Okay, is that touching? Here's the trace. Here's the leg. Nothing. Okay, good. So now we can connect our light bulb to the blue wire of our B+ resistor, other side of the bulb to ground chassis frame. Let's grab our meter, and we're looking for 130 volts DC. We can put that right there, and we can go ahead and just touch that. Let's hook up our power, and if all this works, it should be 130 volts. I mean, all we did in the power circuit was just add R96 and put in a 130 volt regulator, but it should work. So with this being like this, okay, now let's go ahead and turn it on. The light bulb should light up. 1, 2, 3. Yes, and we should have 130 volts DC, and we get 128.8, which is about perfect because the CRT have about a 1 volt difference in load on the circuit with the versus the light bulb here. So good. Okay, successful power supply activation, and with the light bulb on the circuit, our filter cap has been discharged. So okay, we'll set this aside, disconnect power, put that back over here, solder our HOT pin back in. And if you're unfamiliar with this procedure or are new to the channel, desoldering this pin prevents the horizontal output transistor from turning on and activating the flyback and the high voltage. So that's how you're able to do that test without worrying about getting shocked, you know. So okay, let's get this on a tube, come back and see what happens. Alright, so we have a formerly 19-inch K7000, a fully converted to 25-inch. Now whether or not it's a successful conversion remains to be seen, but it should work. So we've got our meter set up to read B+. This is going over there to the blue wire of the B+ resistor, as we just saw, and negatives going to the frame right there. And we're going to use a TPG just to see what kind of signal we get, so we'll turn it on. And when we turn this on, it should operate and run at 130 volts, and then we'll see if we can't dial in vertical size. It should be okay since the R80 matches the 25-inch R80, which I talked about earlier in the video. And the C38 is 0.39, and B+ is 130. It should work. Nothing else. And then we have to put the R96 in there. We have the correct width coil. It should work. So enough jibber jabber. Let's turn it on. 1, 2, 3. Okay, it turned on and went into shutdown. Let's try again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, it's going into shutdown. And that may be because when I broke the glue loose on here, I turned the shutdown pot past its point of where it needs to be. Let's grab another lead here and hook up to the cathode of D12 here. I believe it's the side with the stripe. So right here is a diode D12. We hook up to the side with the stripe, and let's reconnect this to our meter if I can here. And it needs to be 9.8 volts DC, and I'll bet you that tweaking that pot just a little bit after I broke the glue loose moved it out of calibration enough to where it's going into shutdown. So we need to turn this back on. The fact it's turning on is good, but it's going into shutdown because I think our pot needs adjusted. So looking for 9.8 volts DC. Here we go, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, oh yeah, 1018. So let's go to the left here. Okay, turn to the left. Let's try again. 1, 2, 3. 10 point. See, now it's staying on. And look, it works. But we need 9.8 volts. So let's turn this a little bit more. There we go. 9.8. I want to, there, 9.7. Let's go back a little more here. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Oh, uh-oh. Oh, something is cooking now. Ooh. Oh, and I can smell it. I think that flyback is actually shot. Oh, no, no. Oh, the HOT is arcing to the frame. Look, I'm turning the light out. Watch this. Oh, okay. Ah, geez. One thing after another. I say this should work. I'm being plagued by other stuff now. Well, let's replace that. Let's replace that insulator and see if that fixes the issue. Yeah, let's try that again. I'm gonna turn the light off. You can see it here. Oh man, a lightning storm. Okay, let's replace that insulator and see if that fixes this problem. All right, so insulator replaced. I actually put 2 in there. A mica insulator and then a little rubber one. So there's actually 2 insulators in there, and that's all good. Here is the original, and it doesn't look, well, I can't pick up the darn thing. There we go. It doesn't look too bad, but as you saw, most evidently it was arcing. So I'm going to throw this in the garbage. There it goes. So we should be back in business now. So turn this on, and we're still set up to read our shutdown pot. So make sure it's still 9.8. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, back on, and 9.8. That's good. And back to operational. So let's check our B+. 9.7, that's close enough. Let's check our B+ now, and let's get rid of this. There we go. Okay. Now let's hook this B+. Should be 130, and we get 129.3. Fantastic. And obviously it works. Vertical size, I'm afraid that's the highest we get. And we're still 2.5 inches and 2.5 inches, and our width, we need to adjust H position here. That's fairly good. Yeah, well, it works. But I think we're going to have to replace that R80 because this is the maximum height we get, and we're still 2.5 inches on top and bottom. So I mean, as you can see, there's still, this is the highest it goes, and we have this giant gap here. Now, as far as the width, we might have to go back to the 0.34 because if I get my width tool thing here and we adjust our width, let's see what the maximum width that we can get is. And there we go. And yeah, it's not even moving. Well, that's weird. It's not even, oh, there it goes. It wasn't turning. Yeah, we're gonna have to put the 334 back in. That's odd. Well, let's start with the R80. B+ is stable. Let's start with the R80 and adjust that and then see where we're at from that point. So I think I'm going to jump down. A little bit goes a long way. So I'm going to jump down to like a 3 ohm R80. We were at 5.6. I'm going to jump down to like a 3 ohm R80 and see what that does. So let me do that, I'll come back and we'll see where we're at with our vertical size from there. Well, it's the next day here. I was up for, I was up till about 1 a.m. trying to figure out the horizontal size issue. So I figured out the vertical size issue. That wasn't a problem. And like I say, all it was adding different resistance values to R80. So I mentioned the existing original R80 was 5.6 ohms. And I had an extra 5.6 ohm resistor from a 25 inch. I thought, okay, so if they're both 5.6, I should be able to just leave this 5.6 in here and have my proper height. Well, we just saw a few moments ago that was not the case. So I took the 5.6 ohm resistor out of the 25 inch that I had here, I showed, and I added it to the bottom of the chassis. I just soldered it directly to the pads for the existing R80 that's on the top, on the through holes, and added it to the bottom. So now with these two in series, I've got, no, not series, parallel. They're paralleled together. They're both on the same pads, they're not in series. So with both of these paralleled together, now I have 2.6 ohms, give or take, and that was the solution for my vertical size. I have complete total, it goes way off the screen, it comes way in off the screen, vertical size, perfect. Just adding that down to about 2.6 ohms or so. And like I say, one ohm can make a vast amount of difference on your vertical size for R80. So if we saw before it was 5.6 ohms. If we read it now with the other one in parallel, I get about 2.8. So about 3 ohms. So 1.8 ohms or so makes a huge difference. So that was the solution there for our vertical size. But after that, I had a problem with my horizontal size. So we saw there that adjusting the actual width coil really didn't do much of anything. So I changed out the width cap to a 0.224 to try and increase my width. When I did that, instead of the horizontal size on the raster going out to the edge of the screen like this, what would happen is the actual image size on the screen, the raster didn't increase, but the image size would increase. So instead of having, how do I describe this? I think what I'll do is I'll show you the problem. I've already got it figured out, but I think I'll undo the mod, which I'll talk about, and I'll show you what it looked like. But basically, instead of increasing the raster all the way to the edge of the screen, what it was doing was it was increasing the image inside of the narrow screen. So if you can imagine that, the actual picture you're seeing was increasing within the width of the image, but the actual raster wasn't going to the edge of the screen. So what that was doing was, it was causing, as I was lowering the value of C38, the actual image you saw was increasing, and as it got towards the edge of the raster that wasn't increasing, it was just squishing the sides of the image. So as I lowered the value, the image you saw was just getting getting squished and squished. So the outside edge of the image, when you go to the convergence screen on the TPG, all of the boxes should be equally wide, but as you got to the edge, it would get squisher and squisher and squisher and squisher. Finally, the edges were like almost a thin line, and the box on the edge was squished so much you couldn't even tell there was a box there anymore. So there was something going on in the horizontal size circuit, but like I say, everything is the same. So what I had to do was I originally installed the 9 alpha 2838-002. I had to change it out to a -001. So I changed out the width coil to a 9 alpha 2838-001. And that allowed me to actually have horizontal size control. But again, that was only affecting the image and not the raster. By the raster, I mean extending to the edge of the screen, whereas adjusting the size of the image was only changing the internal width of the image being produced by the horizontal circuit. It's hard to describe. You'll see what I mean after I undo the mod. So knowing what I've accomplished in the past here, when I have this image being squished on the sides, I added a 1.6 kilovolt 622H cap. So I got a bunch of these caps here. For a reference, if you want to do this for yourself, on Arcade Parts and Repair, it's MC1016, but it's a 1.6 kilovolt 622H high voltage capacitor here. And when you install this on here, it goes right here. I haven't cleaned this up, so disregard. It goes across this leg of D18 and well, it goes across D18 because this is all one big solder pad here. But basically it goes across D18. I just go to one leg of the horizontal width cap, and then this leg here for the horizontal connection here for your yoke. And, you know, I disregard some of this bad solder joints. I just tacked this on here real quick. But this goes across these 2 points here. Basically, it's just across D18. And that lowers the high voltage. It doesn't really lower the high voltage. It brings it down a little bit, but it also solves our width problem. So that's the mod I'm going to undo to show you here. So right now, this is absolutely working 100% perfectly as a 25-inch K7000 without issue. Perfect. You'll see later. But I had to change out the width coil to the -001. I also had to go up. I had to increase because after installing this cap, the width got way too wide. So after putting in a .474, I put in a 474 C38, a 001 width cap. Linearity coil can stay the same. It doesn't affect the issue. After changing those 2 components out and adding this high voltage cap across D18, absolutely perfect. I have complete width control with the coil. The image can go, the raster goes all the way out and back in. Absolutely perfect. We have perfect height control, perfect width control. This is now a fully functional converted from 19-inch to 25-inch K7000. But let me show you what it looks like. I'm just going to take this and remove this high voltage cap, and I'll put it on the tube, and you can witness what I'm describing. There we go. And then we'll show you that it's fully working by putting it back on. So I guess for this project, we talked about the neck board issue. If you don't have an extra spare neck board and you got one of these, you can just buy one of these on Arcade Parts and Repair with the right socket, CR23, and swap your components over. So there's the neck board thing to consider. The fuse is different. The C38 is different. The horizontal width coil is different. Your B+ resistor is different. Your voltage regulator is different. And you're going to have to add in this high voltage cap. I think that was it. Oh, an R80. So R80, imagine an R80 over here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different components you got to worry about. Now there are other little idiosyncrasies, like there are some extra little film caps in the vertical section, a couple extra resistors down here, but they're not crucial for operation, which you'll see here shortly. So this is now fully converted, but I'm going to hook this up without the high voltage cap installed, and you'll be able to see what it looks like and what I was trying to battle and fight with the squished sides that the high voltage cap fixed. So let's get that on the tube and show you, then we'll fix it, and then we'll show you it fully working, and we'll call this done here. So let's check that out. Okay, so we're back on the tube here, and I'm going to show you that we have full vertical control now, but you'll see what it looks like with the high voltage cap removed and the width squished sides here. So we'll turn this on, and here we go, 1, 2, 3. Okay, fires right up. And you can see here that we have, I don't know, 3 inches of black here on the sides. And you can also see that our vertical height here is also missing a couple of inches. Let's turn up our brightness here so you can actually see the raster. There you go. Was that that was brightness, huh? But you can see here, this is the raster I'm talking about. You can see this is the actual image. This is the raster line. So let's turn our contrast down. There we go. Okay, so this is the edge of the raster, and this is the edge of the image. So if I adjust the vertical height now, vertical size, there you go. Off the bottom of the screen, off the top of the screen, which vertical size is going to end up being roughly, I'll say, right there, vertical height and vertical size, fixed with that extra R80 on the bottom for the 2 5.6s in parallel. Good. That solves our height problem. Now the width problem, I'm going to turn it back off real quick so I can try and fish this into the width coil. Okay. Now, there we go. Now we'll have to try and adjust this. It's working, But, well, I made a goof here. I need to reinstall the 0.39 width cap. I forgot that when I was having the squished sides, I had the actually, you know what? No. I had the 0.39 width cap and the 0.002 width coil installed. I'm going to have to demod, demod this back to that to show you what it was doing. I'd really like to illustrate that, but you know, if you can imagine here, see, this is all uniform. If we go to there, see these squares here, these are all uniform across the board. Maybe squished a little bit on this side, but all these are uniform for for the most part. But as you would increase the horizontal size and the raster would not move. The raster was stuck right here. It did not move out to the side. It did not move out to the side. But as you increase the horizontal size, the image would increase, and as the further you got with this towards the edge of the raster line, it would just squish and squish and squish and squish and squish and squish and squish. So the edge, imagine the edge of this box here was just squished so much it was just basically almost a thin line. So changing this width cap out to a 0.474 and putting in a 0-001 with coil along with this high voltage cap not only solved that squishing problem, but also gave me full horizontal raster. So you'll see here exactly how far this is from the screen. I mean, it's a good, I don't know, 2 inches on both sides. And here's the edge of the raster. So now all I'm gonna do is install this width cap back on the chassis here. I'm not gonna be able to do this while holding the camera. Yeah, and this is lukewarm at best. You know, I mean, it's not overheating. There's no electronic smells. There's no heat coming off anything. So even if you just left this off, it would still run, but you want full raster. So I'm going to install this back across D18 like I had. One leg across the C38 part of the circuit for D18, the other one directly on the D18 leg and the horizontal pin for the yoke. So let me get that back on like I showed a moment ago, and then I'll show you what it's doing now. Alright, so cap is reinstalled. That's all I've done. Let's get this back in the tray. There we go. Make sure ground's still hooked up. Everything's good. Alright. Hook our TPG back up, and you'll see that magically by adding that high voltage cap, not only do we have full raster, but we have a gorgeous picture. So we'll turn that on. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Comes on. And it's a little less energetic because, like I say, it did rob a little bit of the high voltage, but not enough to really affect anything, so it doesn't turn on as energetic. That's what that high voltage cap does. And voila! So I'm going to set up the camera here so we can do this in a less amateurish way. There we go. Now, if we bring up the test pattern, no, we're on a test pattern generator. If we bring up here we go. Okay, so you'll see here that if I adjust my vertical size, we're too high right now. It comes down. We go off the screen, it comes down. So we have great vertical size adjustment by adding that extra resistor onto our 80. And then we can adjust our horizontal width coil here. And we are going off the edge. As you can see, the core is being driven down. Now if I drive the core back out of the coil, you can see that it's coming in. And there's the edge of the raster. I gotta turn the brightness back up. There we go. No, I'm wrong. The core goes down to shrink and it comes out to increase. So I'm putting the core down, and it's going. There you go. So here's the edge of our raster. And here's the edge of our raster. You can see the white line. You can see the white line. I'll turn the brightness back down. There you go. Roughly there. Contrast up a bit. Nope, it's two colors are bleeding. Alright. There you have it. Let's hook up an actual PCB here. We'll go with MK1. And there we go. Let's grab, turn the TPG off, disconnect the connector, hook up the CGA for the PCB, and okay, brightness up, H position, there we go, vertical position, there we go, brightness down slightly, contrast up. Let's adjust a little bit of focus, roughly there. Oh darn it, I don't have a controller. Let's just reset it here. I don't have my controller set up, but you can see we have full raster. And yeah, perfect. Have to wait for this to go through again because I don't have my controller set up, and I need to clean the yoke header pin or the yoke connections here because I can wiggle the yoke connections and it jumps the image around. You ever have a 7000 where the image is a little jumpy? You've probably got some oxidation on your yoke header pins. Now, God, it's still gonna. I can't acknowledge the ROMs. See, the image is bouncing. All I'm doing is touching the vertical yoke header connector, and it's bouncing around. I don't have any bad ROMs, you stupid board. That's why this is a test board, because it always gives me random errors like this. I need to just go grab I'll go grab a controller here for my test rig. hang on 1 second. Alright, so while I was downstairs grabbing the Super Nintendo controller for my setup here, it booted fine with no ROM issues this time. So yeah, that's why it's a test board. Okay, vertical size needs to come down slightly. There we go. Position. Let's hold. Position. Yeah, we'll call that good. We need to see if we can adjust a little bit more of the horizontal size here. And it's not going to be easy trying to get this down in there when it's so far down in there. Yeah, I'm going to turn this off. I got to get the width adjustment tool back down in here. There we go. Okay. I like to live dangerously, but not that dangerously. So back on. And I'll see if we can. We know our B plus is good. We know that our shutdown pot's good. So let's see if I can increase our size just a little bit more. That's better. Okay. Yeah, up increases and lower decreases. Much better. And yeah, this edge of our raster is now off the screen. And let's skip this. Well, it was anyway. Yep. Okay, let's check to make sure health bars and stuff. And yeah, if anything, I can even go a little bit more here. Let's see if I can do this again. Probably not, but we'll see. Nope, I can't even get that. Turn this off. Get the width adjustment tool back in the core. Put this back in the frame. And I want to increase my size a little more here. That's better. Okay. I think that'll work. Okay, so we'll skip past here again. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a fully functional 25-inch, 19-inch K7000. Fight. Oh, come on. Vertical position. Raise it up slightly. Increase our size a little bit. There we go. I'd say we are golden. We have successfully converted a 19-inch 7000 into a 25-inch 7000 with 5 parts. Six parts. And it remains to be seen. Again, take all this with a grain of salt because, you know, long-term testing and things like that, I don't know if it'll blow up an hour from now, but there's no smell of excess heat coming off of this thing. The HOT heatsink is almost ice cold, so it's not overheating. Everything looks and seems like it's working fine. We have full raster, good picture. I would call it a success. Now again, your mileage may vary, but all we had to change out was the wick coil, the voltage regulator, the C38, the B+ resistor, add on the extra R80 to lower it to 2.7 or 2.8 ohms, and the correct fuse rating. So I may have missed something, but I think that's it. That's all we had to do. Once we found the, we had to add that high voltage cap, obviously, so you have to add that in. So what, 7 components, something like that? But if you're able to acquire those said components and swap them out, you, in theory here, should be able to convert any 19 and 7000 to a 25, where brightness is a little high. And you have to go through and adjust colors and stuff, but yeah, I would say you should be able to do this yourself. So this is not meant for educational how-to purposes, but I have to put that disclaimer out. This is just for fun to see if it's possible. So as we can see, it's absolutely possible. Yeah, I got to adjust colors because contrast is bleeding a little bit high, but no big deal. So yeah, there we go. Successfully converted out of a 19 to a 25. Easy for me to say. But with that being said, and I've double and triple repeated myself, which I tend to do, it works. So thanks very much again for watching. Comment down below what you think of this outcome, and I appreciate it. And stay tuned for more. We got lots more on the way.